Good afternoon, America, especially those of you in South Fulton County, Georgia, and all of you who may be listening throughout this expanse called Earth. It is September 27th, 2021. This is the new WCEG network. We welcome you. This program is a special edition of Issues and Answers, and I am your host, Norman A. Carter Jr. On your computer or smartphone, you can view or hear us by typing in WCEG and in your browser, hit enter. And on the next screen, click the live stream tab. On your smart TV, just click the YouTube icon and search for WCEG Network. So very easy. WCEG stands for Worldwide Community Empowerment Group. Our programming goal is to leave you a bit more informed and more empowered than you were before you tuned in. Our motto, we speak life into the community. You may like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter and on Instagram at WCEG _talk_radio and at WCEG Network. Disclaimer time. The topics and opinions on Issues and Answers are those of moi, Norman A. Carter Jr., excuse me, and not the WCEG Network. So don't question my boss about what I say. This is my show, and these are my words and the words of my guest. And ladies and gentlemen, we have a very special guest with us today, Mr. Khalid Kamau. He is presently the councilman in South Fulton, Georgia. And I'd like to give you a little bit of his bio, and I'm sure he'll give you a little bit more. But I as you know, I love doing bios because they're important. Mr. Khalid Kamau, he is America's first Black Lives Matter organizer, elected to public office. Councilman Khalid is leading a generation of young activists from protests to politics. This elected activist is now running to become mayor of his hometown, South Fulton, Georgia, the blackest city in America. Before being elected to city council in 2017, Khalid worked as a labor and community organizer. He helped organize MARTA transit workers and ATU Local 732 in their fight against outsourcing and organized the Atlanta chapter of Black Lives Matter. He was also active in Atlanta's NPU's VNP. In his first term in office, Councilman Khalid fought to increase funding for the city's Parks and Cultural Affairs Department, authored legislation to create a blighted property fund and make Election Day a full paid holiday. Yes, making South Fulton the first city in the South and one of the first in the nation to do so. He created an annual companion event called the Electoral College to teach citizens how local and state government works. He then wrote resolutions passed unanimously by council to declare racism a public health crisis and make Juneteenth a paid city holiday. He co-sponsored and supported legislation to raise the city's minimum wage to $15 an hour, decriminalize marijuana for less than an ounce, quote, ban the box, end quote, asking applicants for city jobs about their previous criminal history, and eliminate Columbus Day in favor of Indigenous Peoples Day. He's a college-educated community activist and Southern Black Christian socialist. Councilman Khalid brings a unique blend of professionalism, passion, and authenticity to government. Mr. Khalid, welcome to Issues and Answers.
Thank you.
I'd like to give you this opportunity, going off script a little bit here, but to give us, I know I gave your bio, but a little bit of your background and your inspiration for running for the mayor of the city of South Fulton.
Okay. So I always, my position in the movement for Black Lives chapter here in Atlanta was one of political education. So I always like to start with political education. I am the only candidate for mayor who was born and raised here in the city of South Fulton. I will be 45 um, by the time this interview airs in October. October 5th is my birthday. I'll be 45. So I was born and raised here. I went to Love T. Nolan, Old National Christian Academy, McNair Middle School, and Tri Cities High School. And if I could, I'd just like to talk a little bit about South Fulton in terms of political education. Is that all right?
Yes, but first of all, happy birthday early.
Thank you. Thank you. So
Yes.
I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen now, if that's all right. Give me 1 second here. We have these mediums of Zoom, and so I always like to take advantage of the medium and actual
Hmm.
technology.
Okay. I
And
think we're working on the screen sharing portion here. So a little something pop up.
okay, no, we got it now. Uh,
Okay.
Yeah, love to take advantage of all the technology. One of the things that I'll say that I think makes me a unique candidate for mayor, I am the youngest person in the race, but at 45, I'm a little too old to be a millennial. I'm actually a member of uh, Generation X. So we sit sort of right in between the past and the future, which is, I think, an important place to be as mayor. I do these interactive presentations on Zoom. I have a TikTok and an Instagram and a Facebook where I put up educational videos. But I also, for my entire time in office as a councilman, have been fighting for us to have a paper newsletter. We've never sent out any sort of regular quarterly, monthly, even annual paper newsletter to the citizens of South Fulton. I know that's important because even though I am part of this digital age, I grew up at a time back when I was in school. We used card catalogs in the Dewey Decimal System, and I had to look things up in encyclopedias.
Mm.
So I know the importance of communicating across all of these different mediums. But while we are here on Zoom today, I first think it's always important that we start off with where the city of South Fulton is. As always, you can find all of this information on my website, khalidcares.com. You can go to khalidcares.com/101 or to the South Fulton 101 page and get this information. But I start with a map because a lot of people still don't know because we haven't done a good job communicating with our residents or even in the media. A lot of people are unclear where the city of South Fulton actually sits. And because we haven't changed our name, a lot of people still conflate South Fulton County with this new city of South Fulton. So the city of South Fulton is nearly 100 square miles with over 100,000 people and a $100 million plus budget. We are the same size as Atlanta. Atlanta's about 103 square miles. We're around 90 square miles. Our the borders of our map look really crazy, and part of that is because we had the opportunity to become a city in 2006, but we voted no. And when we voted no, Atlanta and Union City and College Park and Fairburn all began to like annex portions. That's why if you see through the middle of the map here under Districts 3 and Districts 4, and then between Districts 5, 6, and 7, you see all of these jagged white spaces. These were the spaces that were annexed by other places. A lot of the warehousing that we are seeing happening are happening in these annexed zones. So when we delayed becoming a city, other people got active taking control over our land. That is one of the things that I am um, hoping to fight and restore and actually get some of that land back. The city of South Fulton is, with this population that is 92% African American, of all large cities, we are the blackest city in America. That is really important to me. It's a fact that I'm really proud of. You can see from this latest census data from 2019 that the city of Atlanta is barely a majority black city anymore. And according to the 2020 census data that's coming in, it is no longer a majority black city. Many of the cities that we used to refer to as black meccas and chocolate cities, such as Washington, D.C., Atlanta, New Orleans, a lot of them have lost their populations due to gentrification and all of these things. I think it's important for us as the blackest city in America to not only be intentionally black in our demographics, but black with intention in our policies. There is a great book called The Color of Law that talks about this history of redlining. So when I talk about us being the blackest city in America, it's not that I want to kick all white people out or run white people away. I co-sponsored a diversity and inclusion ordinance. I definitely believe in that, not just for racial and ethnic identities, but for gender, sexual orientation, different abilities. All of those things are important to me. But it is important to understand the reason that a house in South Fulton built by Pulte or John Whelan, or take your pick of builder, a house in South Fulton built by the same builder is half the price or less than half the price of the exact same house built by the exact same builder in Sandy Springs or Alpharetta. And that is not just because of the market or all of these nebulous forces. There were actually laws that were put in place to undervalue black land that black people lived on for generations. And the effects of those laws we can still feel now. That's talked about in this great book, The Law. And there's a map. You can find this at khalidcares.com/Black History. We've heard of redlining. A lot of people think that that's something that happened from banks. It actually, the first redlining maps were drawn by the Federal Housing Authority. The same people that give FHA loans today would not give FHA loans to African Americans up through the 1970s, and even told other banks you shouldn't give those loans as well. Here's a zoom in on Atlanta, and you can see where these are the original FHA maps. You can again find these on khalidcares.com/Black History. You can see that the neighborhoods that are still black and brown neighborhoods today were deemed declining or hazardous and shouldn't be invested in. So when I talk about creating policies and investing in our community, if our communities were shaped, informed, and are still being disenfranchised by policies that were racist, then we will have to write anti-racist policies in order to dismantle that. I talk about housing because the majority of wealth for all Americans, the majority of our families' wealth are in our houses. And to date, because of these policies, as late as 2016, white families have 8 to 10 times the amount of net worth in their families as African Americans. So these policies continue to affect us today. So as mayor, I want us to build better, invest more, and improve our image. I want us to raise the standards for developers. And if developers cannot meet our standards, we can take our $100 million budget and buy our own, buy the land and develop it ourselves. We need to invest in career paths for our children, and we need to improve our image. Some of the ways that I've talked about investing is creating this Grown in South Fulton label. South Fulton has, if you think back to that map, we have a lot of farmland. 17% of our land is zoned agricultural, which is a lot for an urban area. We have 9 working farms in our city. Many of them are owned by African Americans. We have African American wineries. So I propose that we create this Grown in South Fulton label down in Baldwin, Florida, where they had issues attracting good grocery stores. After grocery stores left, they created their own town-run grocery store. This is an article from the Washington Post to fill in that food gap. They staffed it with city workers, so people who were paid a living wage, and then they sourced it with fruits and vegetables for local farmers. So that's the kind of innovative thinking ways to circulate money in our community that I want us to do. But in order to do that, we have to change the way that we budget. This is from our 2022 budget that we just passed last month. Right now, we are spending 30% of every tax dollar that we receive on police and less than 1% on economic development. I am saying that we cannot police our way to prosperity. We have to realign our budget. We have to start buying our land, developing the things that we want to see. We no longer beg developers and these different folks to do these things. And the reason that I am running for mayor, if people remember nothing else, is that the mayor and the mayor alone has the power to make every one of our agendas. So if we haven't talked about these issues in depth as a council or voted on these things, it is because the mayor has not brought them to the agenda. These are things that I've been talking about for years that I want us to do, from paper newsletters to a Grown in South Fulton label. And so I'm running for mayor so that we can have these conversations as a community on how we can be self-determining in our own economic destiny.
Well, thank you very much for that presentation. It's very informative. Along with that, I would like to, because you're a candidate, and every individual is a candidate, but you are also the leader of a team. No man runs the government alone. So what I would like to ask for the purpose of our voters is that, do you have any relationships with investors interested in committing themselves to businesses in South Fulton?
Yes. So in 2018, I proposed a downtown development authority for Old National Highway. The goal was not to make Old National South Fulton's downtown. You think about that map again, we're the same size as the city of Atlanta. So if you think about Atlanta, they have a downtown, they have a midtown, they have a west midtown, they have an East Atlanta, they have a Buckhead. So you have these multiple economic development centers. But the Downtown Development Authority is a legislative invention of the Georgia General Assembly designed to revitalize depressed economic nodes. And everyone in South Fulton knows the most depressed economic area in our city is Old National Highway. So when I proposed this Downtown Development Authority, I came with a developer with a $50 million development for 300 plus apartment units that were going to be affordable housing and market rate units. And the first phase was going to be 80 units of senior housing. That was undermined by our current mayor and certain members of our council based upon this idea that we were going to make Old National the downtown, and that Old National was too ghetto to represent the city of South Fulton. So I did have that deal. That deal is still in place. Those developers are still interested, but we have to have a development authority focused on Old National to put together these bond. They're called a 9% bond financing deal. Make that happen.
Okay, along that line, are you, or do you have a brain trust experienced in real estate acquisition? You kind of mentioned that, and attracting businesses who will provide jobs and training for 21st century job skills?
Yes. So so the answer is yes, I do. One of the unique requirements of Downtown Development Authority legislation is that when you write the legislation, you have to name the entire board. So I had put together an entire board, and we had financial advisors, including our city's chief financial advisor, who actually thought that this was the direction that we should be headed in, and other financial advisors like Douglas Selby, who works for Hunton and Kurth in downtown Atlanta. They put together the deal for the Mercedes-Benz Stadium and several other places. One of the appointees to the board was a young man named Derek Burnett. He and his wife are both six-figure earning Fortune 500 executives, and they could afford to live not only anywhere in South Fulton, but anywhere in Atlanta. They bought 8 acres on Old National to build their dream home because they understood this plan of urbanization and building up on Old National. The goal is for Old National to rival West Midtown, Smyrna, if you've been to Battery Park, if you've been to Dunwoody, all of these other places around the perimeter that sit on the perimeter have been built up in this way. And
Mhm.
Derek Burnett, I am proud to say, is now running to replace me in District 6 of the city of South Fulton. So he is my endorsed candidate. Not only have I brought people to the table to be a part of the economic process, but I'm very proud to say that in the 4 years that I've been a councilman, I have found people who are now running for office.
Excellent. Uh, in August of this year, Morehouse College received $350,000 as a gift from Wells Fargo to support minority business training. And I mention that because entrepreneurship is part of your platform. As council person presently, have you personally made your constituency aware of this resource? And have you reached out to possible investors who are willing to finance entrepreneurship programs for local youth?
Yes, well. First, let me say no. I was not aware of the $350,000 from Morehouse, but yes, with I have made inroads with investors. We had a program at Creel Park called we had two programs. One was Future Seekers, where we were actually teaching kids robotics, and the other was Transforming Youth, where we actually had children, and these were middle aged and elementary school aged children that were starting their own businesses. They started a
Mhm.
t-shirt company, and they did everything from marketing to production to the accounting, and obviously during COVID, Creel Park was shuttered, and I have been fighting to get Creel Park reopened. Those programs are actually still continuing with youth online.
Okay. Excellent. Thank you. Uh, your bio describes you as a college educated community activist, Southern Black Christian socialist. First, um, and I want to ask this question: as a Christian, why would you permit yourself to put on a video using the profane S word, knowing that both adults and children would view this? And, as a Christian, are you aware of James 26, which talks about the unbridled tongue?
Yes, so um I'm a follower of Jesus Christ. Jesus is the founder of my faith. And what I know following the life of Jesus is that he didn't spend all of his time in the church. He didn't spend all of his time with the Pharisees and the Sadducees and all of these people who were so busy upholding the law that they weren't really upholding the spirit of the law. Jesus
Mhm.
could be found with prostitutes. He could be found with thieves. He could be found in all of these places in the streets where the people who really needed to hear the word are. And so I'm proud to be of the hip hop generation. I communicate through Twitter, through TikTok, through Instagram, and in a lot of my videos, you will see that the videos that I have on my Instagram page, right, which targets millennials, is different than the videos that I'll put on my Facebook page, which targets baby boomers, which is different than the videos I'll put on my TikTok page, which targets people who are in middle school. So I try to reach people wherever they are, speaking the language of whatever they speak, which is why I have had such a strong following across multiple platforms. And in fact, when you Google the city of South Fulton on any of these mediums, my name usually comes up first. It really should be the city's name. It would
Mhm.
be our mayor or our communications department, but this is using all of these social media tools is what I do. And I think that we need a 21st century mayor that is going to be everywhere that our people are.
My only question was that you mentioned you want to be a 21st century mayor, but that's 14th century talk, and we should have evolved personally above that. Um, you were born in the South, and you had no choice but to be Black. So, what does it mean to be a Christian socialist?
So to be, I believe that Jesus was a socialist, right? There is a in Acts, they talk about what Christians lived amongst themselves and shared everything in common. They gave up their goods and they shared everything in common. Jesus himself said it was easier for a camel to fit through the eye of a needle than a rich man to enter the kingdom of God.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So when we think about African communities, they are inherently socialist, right? I have traveled to Africa, lived there for 4 months when I was in college. In an African community, we make decisions by consensus and we share everything that we have. 400 years into the present, I like to use the analogy of family reunions. Everybody's been to a family reunion. Those are inherently socialist functions.
Mm-hmm.
Some of our cousins and some of our aunties may not have enough money. They may not have chipped in for the family reunion and they show up. You may not get a t-shirt, but everybody gets to eat. You don't even have to be Black and you show up and you get to eat. That's how Pilgrims came to America. They found some brown people and they said, "Come eat our Thanksgiving dinner." So that's what it means. It means that we take care of everyone in our community, regardless of how much money that they have, and that we always, always, always make sure that our children are taken care of. That's why I spend so much time talking about our youth and investing in our parks programs and after school programs, because our children are our future, regardless of what household they come from.
Speaking of that, what as a council person, and I know that you've been very much involved in youth. What would you think? What would be your greatest accomplishment as a councilman, and also what was your greatest challenge?
I would say, regarding youth, and it's funny, I was just thinking about this today. I live across the street from Creel Park, a few blocks from the house that I grew up in. And in 2006, when we voted no to become a city, all of these other cities became cities: Johns Creek, Sandy Springs, Milton, Chattahoochee Hills. There is also a constitutional amendment that says that all of the money that is raised in a city's city limits must be spent in that city's city limits. So when those cities formed, they took all of this money out of the county budget. We people talk about defunding the police, but for decades we have been defunding DFACs, defunding our parks and recreations departments, defunding all of these things that service families and children, so that by the time we became a city in 2017, Creel Park in my district had not had a staff person working in the park or in the building for nearly 10 years. In those 10 years, 2 dead bodies had been found on different occasions in the park. One of them was a young man who was found while I was a council person. I moved my office. We didn't even have offices at City Hall at the time. We were setting them up. But instead of setting my office up on Fulton Industrial Boulevard and Cascade at City Hall, I set my office up inside Creel Park so that I could open and close the gates of Creel Park because they were just being left open. I got funding to refurbish a computer lab that had not been refurbished since the 90s. And we got internet service at Creel Park. So we got Creel Park up and running. And I'm proud to say that today, Creel Park has a staff person. And when it reopens, it will have staff people servicing the community. I think that and just the example that I showed of a young person making young people a priority and inspiring other young people to get involved in politics, that is has been my proudest accomplishment.
Uh, I noticed on your graph you mentioned that, and you were highly critical of 31% of the uh, local budget being allocated to public safety or policing. Uh, we recently had a program on this station represented by people from all over Metro Atlanta, and gun violence is real. It's not rhetoric, and people, predominantly Black people, are needlessly dying because of it. What do you have to offer to begin to make people in your community feel safer?
So it's interesting because you touched on a couple of things. I want to say, first off, for the past 2 years, though violence and violent crime has been escalating in Atlanta, it has actually been on a decline here in the city of South Fulton. So one of the first things that we have to do, because you talked about feeling safer, we actually are safer in the city of South Fulton than the city of Atlanta. You would not necessarily know that to watch the local news. One of the problems is that anytime any crime happens in the South Fulton County area, whether it's actually in South Fulton, East Point, Union City, or Hateville, what comes on the news is South Fulton. We also know that the people who control newsrooms do not look like the people who live here, and they don't live here. And so one of the things that we have to do is take control of the narratives that are being generated about our community, because our community is actually safe. We can feel safer when we start making sure that our residents know the truth about our statistics and who we are. Secondly, it goes back to the graph that I showed. It's not just that we spend 30% of the budget on police, we're spending less than 1% on economic development.
Okay.
So we have to create job opportunities for young people besides just working in a warehouse or working in a fast food restaurant. If you look around South Fulton now and you're 16 years old, you can go work at a Zaxby's, or you can go work at one of the dozen Amazon warehouses that are popped up around here. But if you want to learn coding, if you want to be in robotics, if you want to be part of this billion-dollar film industry that we don't have as many programs that connect people to that. I am proud to say that I have worked with IATSE, which is the union folks who represent the people who work in the film industry, the cameramen, the gaffers, all of those people behind the scenes, those 300 names that you see at the end of the credits of a movie.
Mm-hmm.
I've worked to connect young people with that union to get them union jobs. I've worked with young people to get them connected to construction ready jobs. We have those programs, which I think we could expand with city funding. These are jobs that pay $20 an hour. So when people have access to opportunity, what we know, and I want to leave you with this statistic. I love to nerd out on statistics because I think it's important that we know facts. Gary S. Becker in 1984 did this study for which he won a Nobel Prize and has been replicated in over 300 countries around the world. And that study has shown that the chief factor for determining crime in a community is income inequality. The more income inequality you have in any community, the more crime you have. And in the Atlanta metro region, not just South Fulton, but the 26 county metropolitan statistical area that makes up Atlanta, we have the highest income inequality in the nation. A child born poor here is more likely to die poor than anywhere else in the country. We, South Fulton, can fix that, at least for our youth.
And that goes back to something I mentioned before, is jobs and bringing jobs to South Fulton now, not 10 years from now. And that takes bringing in corporations, having them come in. Has that been happening in the past since you've been councilman?
So I want to challenge you a little bit. It doesn't take bringing in corporations. That is the kind of 20th century thinking that we have around economic development that we need to move away from. For we've had the same leadership in South Fulton for over 20 years.
I know, but who pays the salaries? Who is paying that $15 an hour?
So this is so the city can pay it. This is what I want to say. We've had the same leadership, not just in the mayor's office, but also at the state level. So we've had the same state reps for all of this time. They haven't brought in anything. We can't beg people to come to our city, but what we can do is use our $100 million budget that we are now in charge of to say, we are going to build the grocery store and hire the workers. We can do that. We can subsidize South Fulton farmers so that they can grow food that goes into South Fulton grocery stores. We can train our youth to drive the trucks to create the logistics company. I'm talking about a new economic model where we use our money to build up our own community and then circulate the wealth in our community. And that's not actually a new model. It's actually going back to the old model of Tulsa and Rosewood and Myrtle Beach and all of these 50 plus African American cities that had existed at one point where we were doing for ourselves.
Okay. I got one because we're getting close on time. Many of your speeches and writings emphasize South Fulton as 90% Black. And I'm going to go back to your Christian being teachings here. You talk about South Fulton being the blackest city in America. What do you care about the 10% you never mention in your ads, nor do these least of these appear in your ads? What does this say about your representing all of South Fulton County rather than the majority of South Fulton? And do you wish for South Fulton to become the Black Forsyth County?
And so I think that I want to correct a couple of things. First, we're not 90% Black. We're actually 92% Black. We were 90% Black in 2017 when we formed. As of 2019, we're 92% African American. So we're actually getting Blacker. And I have had people of all colors in my ads. If you go back and look not only at my campaign for city council, but also the campaigns that I've done for Senator Warnock and Senator Ossoff, because I actually led field campaigns for those candidates. I've always had the most diverse canvassing team, people of all colors participating. I have people that are driving from Athens and Duluth and Gwinnett that are working in my campaigns. I would say though, not to do the back and forth, I think it's also important that saying that you love yourself doesn't mean you hate anyone else. Next month, which is my birthday, is also Gay Pride Month here in Atlanta. Most people celebrate it in June because that's the date of the Stonewall riots in most other cities. It's hot here in Atlanta, so we moved ours to October. I encourage anyone to go to the Gay Pride Parade. In Atlanta, the city of Atlanta shuts down Peachtree Street for this Gay Pride Parade. And everyone comes out for it. The mayor is in the parade. All of these elected officials are in the parade. The parade is for the LGBT community to say, we love who we are here, our lives matter, but everyone participates in it. In fact, the lineup starts at about 7 a.m. They have about 20 different sections. They're in letters, A, B, C, E, F sections, right? And in order to get in the A or the B sections, you actually have to pay tens of thousands of dollars, right? To get your parade and to get your float or your contingent in that section. If you go to the Gay Pride Parade where they shut down Peachtree Street, the A and the B sections are filled with every Fortune 500 company in Atlanta. Delta, Coca-Cola, Home Depot, they all have floats. They're all at the front of the parade. You don't have to be gay to be in the parade or to be in Home Depot if you're a a Home Depot employee and you support gay employees, you can be in the parade. The parade ends at Piedmont Park. At 10th and Peachtree, at 10th and Piedmont, there is a crosswalk. The crosswalks there are painted rainbow colors.
I know, but you're getting away. You're getting off the subject.
So the point is, they're painted rainbow colors not just for Pride. They're painted that way year round, and so we can see and what the LGBT community has done with this parade and with their movement, that they have found a way to say you can be proud of yourself, and it doesn't mean that you hate straight people or that you hate heterosexuality or families or anything like that. So the question is, when African Americans, when Black people want to be proud of who we are, why is it that it is seen as threatening to these other groups when other minority groups have done it successfully? I believe we can do the same thing here in South Fulton. And everyone is welcome to participate in my campaign. Everyone is welcome to be in the government that I will build as mayor. And everyone is welcome here in the city of South Fulton. But we must recognize that many of the issues that we face, from our undervalued homes to our underperforming schools to our lack of economic development, can be directly tied to racist policies at the state, federal, and local level. And so we have to be intentional in attacking and addressing and dismantling that racism.
Okay, we're almost at the. I think you had a curfew, for one of another words, that you had another engagement. Would you like to just give a closing statement about your campaign?
Yes. What I would like to say, I enjoy. I invite people of all races, colors, creeds, nationalities to get involved in this campaign, to come and learn about this campaign, and they can do that. They can do that by visiting me at khalidcares.com. Khalidcares.com is the website I was actually trying to bring it up, but they wouldn't let me bring it up.
Right.
Or you can text the word. You can text. Here we go. You can text the word Fulton to. You can text the word Fulton to 33777. So please visit khalidcares.com or text the word Fulton to 33777. Thank you for this time. I want everybody to get out and vote. Thank you so much. South Fulton forever.
Thank you. And I'd like to remind our voters that voter registration ends on October the 4th. Absentee ballots, you can go to www.sos.ga.gov. That's www.sos.ga.gov. Early voting is from October 12th to October 29th. Repeat, early voting is October 12th to October 29th. Election day is November the 2nd, and not only will you be electing the mayoral election, but also on the agenda, and I didn't get a chance to get around to that, is a T-SPLOS referendum, which is your transportation, special purpose, local option sales tax, which is, I believe, 0.75 cent sales tax. And that's going to go not just for South Fulton, but for many other counties in Georgia. I thank you for this very special edition of Issues and Answers on WCEG Network, where we decided and tried to make you a little bit more informed than you were at the beginning. And this is part of a series of presentations we'll be making on candidates running for office in South Fulton County, Georgia. Norman A. Carter Jr. signing off. We at WCEG thank you for listening and viewing, and we will be coming at you more with more. Take care. Bye-bye.